Well, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you again for joining our podcast, Cultivating Healthy Relationships. And we are now at week 3 of our series on the dynamics of abuse. And so I want to thank Dr. Allen to have stayed with us through this thick and thin. And we look forward to what you have to say today, Dr. Allen. Do you want to say anything before I move on?
Well, it's good to be here again because this is an area which everybody needs to know about.
Okay, so thank you again, Dr. Allen. So for those of you who have been following us, and we thank you so much for following us. We thank you for those who have subscribed. Thank you for those who have liked, and thank you for those who have shared. You know, we want this information to get out to as many people as possible because, you know, there are many hurting families all over the world, you know, and it's not just in Jamaica, it's everywhere. Domestic abuse is not anything that we want anybody to have to suffer. We want people to have the information so that they can be armed with the correct information to help their family members, to help their children, to help their grandchildren. This is very, very important. And so today we're going to be discussing why victims stay. Why victims stay. I have a chapter in my book. I don't remember the exact title, but it's about why I stayed and why I left. And in my case, I returned 6 times before leaving on the 7th time. And so there is a whole psychology around this. And so I would want to ask you, Dr. Allen, what are the psychological and societal barriers that prevent victims from leaving? Why was it that I would not leave?
Well, see, this is an important thing to discuss because commonly you hear people say, but if this person is being abused, why they don't just leave? You know, as if to say, well, they can just pick up and leave like that. And it's their fault because they are staying in the relationship, you know, and they shift the focus now onto the victim as if they are the person who is causing this whole thing to happen, you know. Now, we have to remember that there are serious problems in situations because what can happen, for example, is that um, you can have threats that the time when you might make up your mind to leave, that's the time when the abuse can escalate and get even worse, right? And it can be a most dangerous time for the person. Because if at all the abusing partner has any hint that the person might leave, that is the time when you know there may be murder suicide. We have to face it.
You have to
We
face
have
it.
to face it. Yes. And many times we read in the paper that man's shoots wife, kills self. Right? You see, because very often these men who are abusers, as we have said before, for them it's about power and control. And for many of them, their growing up years, they didn't feel love, they didn't feel nurture, you know, and they didn't feel any much of an attachment. So in order to get attached now to their partner, they feel they have to control the person, have power over them, to have some attachment, right? And use manipulation and all the things we spoke about before, right? And when now that person decides that they really are going to leave,
Yes.
or if they have left, then you can have the murder suicide situation. But then apart from that, you can have extreme threats to children. If you ever leave, I'm going to harm your children. I'm going to harm your family members, you know. And that is sometimes why now people have to build up resources with friends and others to have a rescue mission.
Yes.
When the time comes that they really want to leave, you
Yes.
know. Now, of course, the children now will be increased. They will be having increased danger, you know. And the thing is that the children are aware of what is happening, you
Yeah.
know. And then the other thing is that um, the person who wants to leave very often are not aware what services can I apply to support me,
Yes.
you know. And that's why it's important for um, the society in many countries to have um, support groups, organizations for persons who have domestic abuse. And they can have hotlines and so on,
Right.
so
Do
that they
they have
can
them in
call.
Jamaica? Do they have them in Jamaica now? Because I remember there was a point at which
Yes, we do have a hotline in Jamaica.
Oh, great.
Yes, you
Great.
know, so they can have these, but many people are not aware of the hotlines, not
Right.
aware of the services, so they don't know where they could run to, they don't know where they could go to, you know, and for that reason they stay.
Yes.
Sometimes they lack financial resources because you remember one means of control and power was
Is the
financial
money.
abuse.
Right.
Yes, so the husband keep all the money and only give them to buy when they have to go buy groceries, you know,
Yes.
or prevent them from working. So they don't have the financial resources now when they leave.
Yes.
Where to stay, not enough money to rent anywhere or what have you. So
Yes.
that keeps them staying in the relationship. The fear of losing custody of the children,
That's a
because the
big
man
one.
could put it to the court that, because sometimes she decides, boy, that she has to run to get away. She can't pull the children with her. If she has to escape in the dead of night,
Yes.
sometimes the children are left. And then she's going to try to find ways now to get the
Get
children
back her
eventually.
children.
Yes. But then she's accused now that she
Mhm.
doesn't care for the children.
That's it.
And she's not a fit
Mm.
mother. And then she can lose custody. So she's also afraid of that, you know. And sometimes, the doctor who the man goes to or goes to get a report doesn't understand about abuse. And he goes along with the man's story that this person is not fit
Mentally fit.
to raise children, you see.
Mm.
Um, and the other thing is that there's a fear of not being believed. Because if somebody go and say to friends, even friends, that my husband has been abusing me. What?
But
Johnny?
doc,
But
I was
Johnny
telling you.
could never be a person like, he's such a nice and warm and friendly person, you know? And people at work, what? No, sir. When your husband come here, he's nice to everybody, you know? And what are you talking about? I think you're being too sensitive. And it seems like
But
you want to make
I still suffer from that right
mm,
at this moment. I still suffer
mm,
from that. And
mm,
it's a very sad situation, because you would think that by now I would have got past that. But it's so hard. And this is why I'm so happy to have you supporting me through this, because it still is hard for a lot of people to understand that this thing is real and that it
mm,
exists. A friend of mine who had gone to university with years ago, she just got hold of my book, and she said, I read it in one go. I sat and I read it from cover to cover. And she said to me, she said, I went through the same exact thing that you went through. And so I know that this is real. And it's literal, it's only people who have been through it, and people like you who have seen so many cases like this, that are willing to admit that yes, this thing is real, and these people are not making up stories. And I mean, up to my last counseling session in a psychologist room, I had two psychologists in the same room at the same time, and I just couldn't get through to them at all. None of them understood what I was going through.
whoa.
Yeah, I was
Mm,
literally, told that, and it really is worrisome that
mm-hmm.
you can leave somebody 6 times and somebody don't understand that there's something wrong about this situation here. Something has to be wrong about it. Anyway, sorry, Doc.
You see, it's hard for us to believe um, that people can be so controlling, abusive, and potentially violent and show so many different types of violence. And part of it, okay, we hear about gangs. We know gangs are poor people who live in the ghettos.
Mhm.
You know, um, you hear about people who are part of cartels and sell drugs and all these things. So you know that these people often use violence, etc. You know, but here is somebody who might be a professional, even could be anybody. It
Yep.
could be a pastor, it could be a doctor, it could be a lawyer, could be any profession.
Yep.
And it could be a man, a woman who is being abused by a man as well, you
Yep.
know.
Even worse.
And usually these persons are narcissistic and they like to put on a good impression to appear nice and friendly and warm
Happy and
and just, oh,
jovial.
yes, the best person to meet, man. Let me tell you about so someone. It's the best person I've met and all that. you know.
You ask
But
them about the
when
wife, and the wife is the most miserable person on earth, eh?
yes, because when they go home and close that door, they are a different person altogether. But you see, the public doesn't know it.
Yep.
And the public is not educated
Mm-hmm.
about emotional literacy and
Mm-mm.
about abuse literacy.
Yes.
And that is why we are doing these programs.
Amen,
So
Doc.
people can be literate
Yes.
about abuse. So then, apart from not being believed,
Mm.
there can be pressures from the church.
Mm.
Yes, saying that the woman, the Christian woman, must sanctify the man. You know, and I mean that might be so. I mean, if it's an ordinary man, in a sense, and is open to change, and surely the examples of his wife can help him to change. But if it's a man who is an abuser and all that you have spoken about, nothing that the wife does, she could be the biggest saint in the world. She's
But
going to
Doc,
get her abuse the same way.
I
But
have
the
to.
thing is that many people in the church don't understand this.
Doc,
you know.
I
And
I have
go
to ask
ahead.
you, I have to ask you this because this was the strangest situation that I had. Now the Bible clearly says that if the man chooses to stay, then then she should allow him, right? That's what the Bible says. If he chooses to stay, then she should, because she's a Christian woman. I am the Christian woman in this situation, and this man refuses to leave. And so, is that what the Bible is talking about?
No, but the thing is, no. It depends. If he chooses to stay
Right.
um in a nurturing way and in a positive way, even though he may not be a member
Guys,
in the church, then the woman, by her example, you know,
what kind of
um,
example if the person is terrorizing you?
yes, but the thing is that very often people in the church have no idea what is going on. This is where we come back to the point. Because the man could be singing in the choir, he could be a deacon, he could be he could be such a saint, and he could preach and what have you, right? But the the problem is that too many people in the church um focus on religiosity rather than true religion. You know, you have some people who they'll sing on the choir, they'll be the biggest church worker. But when they go home, hear them talk to the helper, hear them talk to the person when they go to a store, how they treat the people in the store. Their actions don't match how they go on in the church.
The love.
Yes, it could be anybody. So similarly, in the same way,
Yeah.
a man who's a prominent member of a church, right? When he's in other circumstances, he puts on a different face and the real person comes out.
Yes.
But the problem is that there are too many ministers and leaders of church who are not trained in psychology. Every minister must be trained in pastoral psychology,
Yes.
which would include abuse literacy, so he can understand what is happening.
Yes.
Because sometimes he's the person that people who are abused may call and go to. And if he cannot appreciate it, he might be sending back that person to their death.
Exactly.
You see? So our ministers and leaders of churches must be properly trained in psychology, you see? So that shame that people have because of leaving or thinking of leaving, it has to be dealt with. You don't need to feel ashamed. And, again, people have to recognize that this thing can be serious. And this is why we need public education as well.
Yes.
Public in the newspaper, on the radio, and all of that to tell exactly what it is about. And this is what we are doing. And then there's the feeling that sometimes people might lose their support network because if their friends are saying, "What you talk about, man? You're too sensitive. You can't talk about the man like." So a person might lose their friends, and their friends might start distancing themselves, and so on. So there's a societal problem. And also, um, as we have said before, when we spoke about the cultural wheel, there is the sense of shame that the person may feel ashamed that they leave. And also, the man he may now come to the honeymoon stage when we spoke about that.
Yes, yes.
And he goes on his knees and he said, darling, I'm so sorry that I did it. I didn't mean it, you know. I came from work and somebody bad drive me and I just really got out, you know, and I'm having it hard financially and life is just difficult. And I just find something snapped in me and that is why I hit you like that and shouted at you like that. But that is not me, you know, and I go on my knees, I'm not going to do that. I see God there, you know. But the fact is once a man shouts, once a man hits, once a man tries to use power and control, he's going to do it again and again and again and again.
But
So
Doc,
there's that belief that the person will change. And that is
no,
why some people stay in.
but Doc, in my case, he just denied doing it. So it's not like him say, okay, I did it and it was, I did it in anger. There was never any admission of doing what I know he did. So it was always my word against his word. And of course, I am going to be the one to think, oh, I must be deluded or something because I know what I know, but I'm in front of all of these people, the psychologists or whoever they are, and he's crying and denying that he did anything wrong. And, I am thinking to myself, what's happening here? Because I know what happened. But you're
Yes.
telling me, and I mean, they're like, but he's crying, he wants back his wife, he wants back his family. And I'm thinking, I don't want that. I don't want to go back to this craziness.
And that is called crazy making and gaslighting because
Exactly.
the person is telling you that no such thing ever
No
happened.
such thing happened.
You are imagining this.
Yes.
You know, all I did was say to
Nothing.
you, you know, I never said
No
anything,
recollection of
or I just
anything.
said something mild, or I have no memory. There was nothing like that.
Nothing happened. Nothing.
Yes, yes, and it's surprising how people can look in your eyes and lie to you.
Lie. Just,
Yes,
sorry. Compose myself.
and you feel now like something is wrong with you.
It has to be me. Because
Yes,
I can't, it's my word against your word, just the two of us in the house. So, hello, and you're crying that you want me back. So I want to leave. So I must be the villain. You know.
So you see, this is why it's important for people to understand that people who are abused, you can often think of them as being in a cage. In a cage constituted of so many factors
Yes.
that contribute to preventing them from leaving. And if people can understand about this cage, then they'll be able to now go in and help this person to get out. You have to understand, you know. And sometimes too, well, it can happen in different cultures because
Yes.
for example, in like the United States and Europe, other cultures where people might come from conservative cultures, where you might have child brides and all this type of thing, and arrange weddings and so on. And if somebody is being abused and they leave, you can have even things like honor killings and so
Yes.
on, you
Yes.
know.
Quite bad.
Or the person may be ostracized in their ethnic community
Yes.
because they don't want to stay in the marriage, you know. And even sometimes people who are in countries where there are immigrants, then the abuser might threaten to go and report them to the
That's
immigrant
it.
authorities.
Yes.
So they
Yes.
become deported.
Yes.
threaten that. I
Yes.
hold that over them.
Yes.
You see,
Yes.
there are so many reasons.
Mm. But the whole matter about intermittent reinforcement. I mean, what's the role that this plays to cause a victim to want to not leave?
Well, they have done experiments with rats that if you put a rat in a cage and you have a hole, and when the rat comes, you put some food to eat every time,
Yes.
the rat will come at intervals because they know the food is there. They can stay for a while and come. But if sometimes I put the food there and the rat will come and eat, sometimes no, there's no food, the rat come and wondering what's happening, and they put it now and then. The rat is coming more often now to see, and that's what they call intermittent reinforcement. So sometimes the husband is on the abuser or him or her
Yes.
best behavior, and you couldn't want a nicer time and what have you.
Yes.
I mean, it's just bliss, and we bring flowers and bring a nice meal, and and the bliss is so great to feel that, but nothing will ever. My marriage is nice, man. And then at other times, without any provocation, anything at all, the
Yes.
person just blows off and becomes the worst person in the world. And you don't know when to expect it.
You don't know.
You
It
might cook
could.
a nice meal for the person and it works. The person is nice. Another time you might cook the same meal and the person, like you're talking about the chicken and rice. So you can't predict what's happening.
Not at
And
all.
sometimes that helps to keep people there because they are saying, well, boy, let me keep trying. Perhaps if I try again, probably if I try this,
Doc,
probably if I try that, it
doc,
might work.
you talk
Yes.
about a person that try. I can't, I mean, the amount of money I spend on psychologists, the amount of money I spend on book, the amount of, I mean, you can't, this lady, 29 years of trying
Mm,
everything, every possible
mm,
thing. And as you say, it's just one of those things that just, there's nothing you can do, really.
mm, mm,
But it's so
mm,
hard for people to hear that, people to learn.
mm,
It's like everybody has to go through their own series of, and based on what the statistics is saying, it's about 6 times that people leave and return.
mm,
That's what the
mm,
statistics is showing. Six
mm,
times.
mm, mm.
So it's
And
not unusual.
that's what I call abuse literacy. We have to understand
Yes.
that this is what it is like and recognize, try to have some recognition
Yeah.
and to learn through reading, read a lot or get training or, try to join groups or
But
form groups, support groups
Doc, let me ask
where,
you a question. You ever hear anybody preach this from the pulpit? Because, when you think about it, the messages you get from the pulpit is that you need to love one another, right? And that, if you show more love, then the person is supposed to, you turn the other cheek and you need to, they have so many different stories in the Bible of why, in a situation like this, you're supposed to, by showing more love, by doing all the right things, then
no, but this is fine. But if both people are doing it, if you have reciprocity, and the Bible speaks about love your neighbor, what?
as
As
yourself.
yourself. Love one another. So if there is a mutual support and the loving one another,
Yes.
where it's two sides,
Yes.
if there's any problem, both negotiate for
Yes.
win-win, that
Yes.
both persons will
Yes.
win. that is fine. That you can preach at any time. But if somebody is going through abuse and that is thrown at them, and no effort is made to find out if the other person is really showing any love, that
It's
is
crazy.
I would call spiritual malpractice.
Thank you, Doc. That's a very good word. Spiritual malpractice.
Malpractice, yes.
I love it. I love it. Anyway, Doc, I think we have gone way past our time that we were wanted to stick to. But there was so much that you unpacked here, and we want to thank you again, Doc. And again, I ask our listeners, please subscribe, like, share, and next week we are going to be examining children and the effect on the children. And so we look forward to you joining us again next week. Doc, you have any last word you want to push in there?
No, I'm using the word abuse literacy. Just like you're able to read and write and use maths to get
Yes.
on in this world, to be there for people and to really grow and help people, to serve people. You have to know about abuse
Abuse
literacy as well.
literacy. Thank you, Doc. I shall use that as one of our hashtags for this particular video. Abuse literacy. Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
Great rest of the day. Bye.